Southern Maryland's weather leader. This is a JB Weather Alert.
Good evening, I'm Forecaster John Bordash with you here in the JB Weather Center this evening, continuing to track, not major hurricane just yet, but a very strong hurricane Ida moving through parts of the Gulf of Mexico, expected to reach major hurricane status anytime now, and is likely going to be moving onshore of southeastern Louisiana within just 24 hours, likely only 12 to 18 hours away from a landfall here along the Gulf Coast. And I do think this will be the most significant storm to strike the mainland U.S. since Hurricane Katrina in 2005. This storm is currently stronger than Katrina was at landfall in 2005, but I do not think this storm will be necessarily as bad as that storm, but this is going to be a storm that we will need to continue to watch as we're looking at the potential for catastrophic impacts across the southeastern parts of Louisiana and parts of Mississippi as well. Let's get right into the latest forecast. This is the 5 o'clock advisory here from the National Hurricane Center, and this is when we still had a little bit more daylight out there, so we're able to get a better look at Ida on the satellite imagery, but winds right now sustained right around 105 miles per hour. We have seen Ida very quickly gain a lot of intensity here. This time yesterday, we were talking about Category 1 storm. It's right around 75 to 80 mile an hour winds. Right now we're looking at 105 mile an hour winds, and we're likely going to continue to see that number increase. I would expect around the time of our 8 o'clock update, we might see winds upwards of 110 to 115 miles an hour. You need winds of 111 to be a Category 3 major hurricane. And once we get to 130, then we're talking about Category 4 status. And that's exactly what the National Weather Service is forecasting for. We're thinking this is going to reach Category 3 status late tonight, and you see there with that marker right around 2 o'clock, 125 mile an hour winds, and then by tomorrow afternoon making that landfall there in parts of Louisiana, winds getting upwards of 130 miles an hour as that storm continues to push off to the north and west. And then by Monday morning, early Monday morning, still over southern parts of Louisiana, moving through the Baton Rouge area, still is a Category 1 hurricane. These storms do quickly fall off with intensity once they move onshore. We measure hurricane strength right now based off of wind speed, and once these storms come onshore, there is a lot more friction that helps to slow down those winds. When these storms are out over the open water, we don't have a lot of friction. There we go. Out over the open water, allowing winds to really swirl around these storms. But once they come on shore, we see that friction increase and wind speeds do gradually come down. So this will weaken once it comes on shore. We're not talking 130 mile an hour winds for everyone, but we are talking about that potential of winds that strong right around the landfall point. Let's go ahead and move this on forward now. Let's take a look at those impacts. They're really going to be the highest right up along the Gulf coastline there in southern parts of Louisiana. I've had to add a 5th category in here, catastrophic. I have never done that before, and I do think this is going to bring life-altering impacts for areas in that white zone, even areas in the pink zone, extreme impacts for New Orleans, Baton Rouge, parts of southeastern Louisiana. And those high impacts go well inland as well, as we're still going to be looking at damaging winds and heavy rainfall moving on with this storm. Winds with this storm, I think they're going to be the highest right at the coastline. We could see wind gusts get upwards of 110 mile an hour in that purple zone there. So that's really kind of honing in on parts of Franklin, Houma, just south and east of New Orleans. That's where the strongest winds are going to be. Now, we are looking at that potential of hurricane force wind gusts upwards of 74 mile an hour or greater being possible in that red zone. So that's going to include much of southern Louisiana, all of New Orleans, Seidel, Baton Rouge. That's going to be the biggest impact there. And down south, those winds are going to be coming onshore, which will translate to a storm surge threat that we'll talk about in a moment. And those orange and yellow colors, those would be tropical storm force winds, and those are going to extend well inland with this storm. One of the big worries we've had today with this, and we're going to take a break from the slideshow, come back over here to live infrared satellite imagery. One of the big concerns we've had today with this storm is the exact track. really a difference of 10 or 20 miles will result in big time differences for people residing within New Orleans or Baton Rouge. Really anywhere you're going to see big differences. You can see where the storm is right now. It has a nice well-defined eye. It's really getting its act together. But if we were to put on the forecast track from 5 o'clock on this, what you're going to notice is a very slight deviation to the east with this. And we've been looking at this all day. We have seen this storm tracking anywhere from 10 to 20 miles to the east of the forecast track. So what that would do, if this maintains that 10 to 20 mile shift to the east, it would take some of those strongest wind gusts and you move them 10 to 20 miles to the east. We're really getting some dangerous wind gusts here into parts of southern Louisiana. Let's go ahead and take a look at the European model. And I don't think I have that loaded in here correctly. I want to make sure I have the right image up here, but when I get this uploaded, you'll see the European model and what that's showing here for potential wind speeds, what it's forecasting. So let me go ahead and bring that up. Let's move forward here. So we were talking about my forecast for the winds. This was the European model, max wind gusts with this, and this is a weird map because it doesn't show town names and the state and county lines are a little hard to see. But what we're talking about is the southern Louisiana coastline here, and this model takes some of those highest wind gusts right to the coastline. You can see wind gusts in that gray zone getting upwards of 150 mile an hour at points as the storm makes landfall, and this model spreads those 100 mile an hour wind gusts well inland, even getting up towards the Baton Rouge area. We're talking 70 to 100 mile an hour gusts being possible in New Orleans. So that's going to be something to keep in mind. Additionally, people want to know how this stacks up to Katrina. Hurricane Katrina maxed out at Category 5 strength, 175 mile an hour winds. I don't think Ida's going to be able to get to that point, which is good news. It's taken a little too long to get its act together. It is getting its act together, but I don't think we're going to see a Category 5 storm. But when Katrina made landfall, it was only a Category 3 storm with winds of 125 miles an hour, and we're seeing the potential for those wind gusts, or for those sustained winds, to get right around that point, if not a little higher. So keep that in mind. In this storm, Hurricane Katrina, it traversed to the east of New Orleans. This storm, Hurricane Ida, is going to move to the west of New Orleans. But again, it's really going to come down to where that exact track is going to be. That storm surge potential from the National Hurricane Center highlighting that potential for 7 to 15 foot storm surge anywhere from around the Morgan City area all the way through the mouth of the Mississippi up through New Orleans, Lake Pontchartrain, and getting on over towards Gulfport and Biloxi over there in parts of Mississippi. Our rainfall totals with this are going to be pretty extreme as well. The potential is there for widespread 6 to 12 inch plus totals. Our Chesapeake Spotting Futurecast shows that potential for rain totals to get up over a foot through many communities, through parts of New Orleans, on over towards Hammond, Sidell, getting on over into southern parts of Mississippi. So this is going to be a pretty high impact storm just from the rain side alone. But then once you add in those the potential for 70 to 100 mile an hour wind gusts on top of the surge, we're going to be talking about those catastrophic to extreme impacts being likely across much of this region. Actually, the National Weather Service has already highlighted much of this region as being under an extreme flash flooding risk tomorrow. So this is going to be separate from that storm surge threat. So we have flooding coming from two different areas. We're talking about coastal inundation, and then we're talking about flooding from rainfall. In New Orleans, you have that levee system up there, the infamous levee system that did fail back during Hurricane Katrina. They've made some improvements to that, so it should be good this time around, but we're definitely going to have to see. It'll be one of its biggest tests yet. But when we're talking about the risk of flash flooding, the levee system isn't going to protect New Orleans and surrounding areas from rainfall-based flooding. They do have pumps in the city, but they only pump out rainfall totals of up to an inch an hour, and we're forecasting the potential there for wind gusts, or for rainfall totals to get up near a foot, if not maybe a little bit more for some communities. So that's going to lead to some pretty high impacts. That's why we're talking about an extreme risk here for flash flooding as we move forward with this forecast. I think that's going to be really important to note that we're talking about flooding being potential in two different areas with this storm. And this flooding threat will also extend well inland here. When we're talking about the flooding threat for Monday, we have a significant risk of flooding that extends to parts of Mississippi. Coming back to tomorrow's flood outlook, that extreme risk is very rare. It is very rare that we get one of those level 4 risks out there. I want to say the Weather Prediction Service only ever issues these maybe a handful of times a year. It's very rare to get that, and again, that's going to transpire inland. What I do want to do is give you a look at our Futurecast model, show you what it's showing in terms of rain or in terms of winds for this storm as we head through tomorrow. So I want to see if I can't get that switched over here. There we go. So this is how Futurecast is initializing the storm right now at 6 o'clock. And you're going to see some colors that extend outside of the 100-mile-an-hour legend you see there, where you get some of these gray colors down in here. That is indicative of winds well over 115 miles, or over 100 mile an hour, getting near 115, 120. So we will watch this. I want to make sure I have the right, there we go, the right format for that. But as we push this on forward here, as we head towards 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock this evening, our model is really showing the potential for Hurricane Ida to be approaching Category 4 strength already. It is very possible that this storm is going to continue to rapidly intensify, and by the time we head on over towards, let's say, 8 o'clock this evening, we're talking about a Category 3 storm, and then by the 11 o'clock advisory, maybe even a Category 4 storm. Our Futurecast model really does show that potential for those wind speeds to be getting up over 130 miles an hour, which would be that Category 4 strength. As we push this forward, our Futurecast model shows that this storm really gets its act together. Winds getting up over 130 miles an hour, and we begin to see some of those tropical storm force winds, which denoted there essentially by that yellow color, already pushing on shore, with the potential for hurricane force winds denoted really here by this pinkish color. Beginning to move on shore as well. So you push this forward, you can see the eye of the storm right in here, winds still gusting and getting upwards of 130 miles an hour. And as we push this forward, our model takes landfall just south of New Orleans here, right around noon to 2 o'clock, with those wind speeds getting up over hurricane force, getting up near Category 3, Category 4 strength. What I do want you to notice here as we zoom into New Orleans, look at how the wind field is looking with this storm, where the winds are gusting from. This is an onshore flow here in New Orleans, and that will push a lot of water in parts of Lake Pontchartrain up against that levee system, really kind of giving this a test here for how these levees are able to withstand such a storm surge, potentially getting between 7 to 15 feet. Any additional track here, any additional shift here to the east will lead to catastrophic impacts here moving into New Orleans. What I want to show you quickly, if we take where this storm is forecast to make landfall right now, let's just shift this about 20 miles to the east. We push that means we push all of this to the east. So we're going to take this eye wall right here. We push this 20 miles to the east, and that'll put it right here into New Orleans. So the exact track really does matter with this storm, and we're really going to need to keep this in mind as we push forward here. Let's go ahead and take Futurecast out here a little bit further. You can see by Sunday afternoon, we are getting wind gusts upwards of 80 to 90 miles an hour getting into New Orleans. Baton Rouge is picking up as well, getting up to 50 miles an hour, and we really see this storm try to hold on to its strength, bringing hurricane force winds well inland, and we can see that here, and then trying to get near Baton Rouge Sunday night getting into Monday, really bringing those high wind speeds throughout this region. What I want to do quickly is take a look at Futurecast depicting the potential here for rain with this and what the simulated radar could look like. So let me go ahead and get that loaded up here for you. Let me make sure I have, let's get the right banner loaded up there. Let's go ahead and get the correct product loaded up here. So we can go ahead and just turn those winds off for now. Let's go ahead and get reflectivity loaded up. And if we bring this right to around landfall tomorrow, so that was depicted to be right around 12 o'clock here. Let's go ahead and zoom in. You can see what this storm is looking like. You can see those bands of rain pushing on shore. We can see the heavy rain beginning to move in, and this accompanying with a high wind coming onshore, leading to storm surge, gusty showers pushing on in. We're talking about the potential for very high impacts here across this region, and that is why when we come back over here, we're talking about the potential for catastrophic impacts. Really focus up along the coastline, but those extreme to high impacts do extend well inland as well. So I think this is going to be one of the bigger storms we've talked about in quite some time. We're not even to the peak of hurricane season yet, but this very well could be the marquee storm of the season that we're going to be tracking. So any interest in parts of southeastern Louisiana, you want to make sure you're paying attention to the storm. The window to evacuate is quickly closing. Much of I-10 today coming out of New Orleans has been pretty well congested with the traffic all trying to get out of there, and that window for impacts is really beginning to come up on us, and we'll probably start to see rain. Let's show 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. You can see the rain is already beginning to push on shore with Hurricane Ida. So this is a very serious situation. You're going to want to make sure you stay weather aware. For locally, let me go ahead and zoom out, and I want to make sure I actually have this I want to make sure I have that turned off. I want to switch models here, and I do want to show you that potential for rain up in our way as the remnants of Ida work on through that. It's going to try to bring rainfall totals, or bring rain into our region as we head into middle parts of the week. As we head over towards Tuesday, you can see the actually, I'm on the wrong slide here. As we head on over towards around Tuesday, what you can see is these would be the remnants of Ida here moving through parts of through parts of Tennessee and Kentucky, and we're going to track this as we head on over towards Wednesday. The remnants of this beginning to give rain to parts of our region, and the exact track is going to be highly critical here as well. It's kind of hard to say right now. Right now, our models kind of depict this the remnants of Ida here. Center located about here. If it were to take a track to our north, that would put the heaviest rain to our north. But if that track comes a little further to the south, that would bring some heavier rain into our region as well. So it's going to be something to keep an eye on. Some of the forecasted rain totals for this, let me go ahead and get that brought up. We want to make sure we're over on total precip with this. Let's just go ahead and take this all the way out through Thursday. This would bring hefty amounts of rain, upwards of 4, 5, 6 inches into parts of our region. You can see that stripe there, heavy rain pushing right through New Orleans here, getting upwards of 12, 13, 14, 15 inches through here. And you can really see how the storm tracks with this as it pushes on through. So this will be something that much of the U.S. needs to pay attention to. We could see the remnants move through parts of the Mid-Atlantic as we head towards Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Details TBD. We really need to see the exact track of this system. But in the short term, we're talking about high, extreme, and catastrophic impacts being likely across parts of the deep south along the Gulf Coast. You can get continuous updates from me on Twitter. That is the best way to get these type of updates at JB_weather. Facebook is a little weird for me to do instantaneous continuing coverage because you're going to see posts out of line. You'll see them days, and it doesn't really work. I try to just keep the forecast over on Facebook, but on Twitter you can get a lot of those updates. So again, it's JB_weather. We will continue to watch this. I'll have more information throughout the evening. The 8 o'clock advisory will be coming out shortly, and then the next new track will come out at 11 o'clock, and we'll see if Hurricane Ida has indeed reached major hurricane category 3 status at that point. You can also head over to jbweather.net for the latest information as well. I have my latest full forecast up over there. But have a nice and safe one. Keep it tuned to JB Weather. I'll continue to keep you ahead, and please stay weather aware. And for any interest in southeastern Louisiana, my heart goes out to you. I'm sending prayers, and hopefully we have very minimal loss of life and very minimal impacts across that region. But right now the forecast isn't pointing in that direction, but we'll see. But I'm Forecaster John Bordash. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I'll continue to keep you one step ahead of any storm that fires up. Have a nice and safe one, and keep it tuned right here.
Check the forecast anytime online at jbweather.net.